Welcome to She Who Heals, the spiritual business podcast for healers to take up space and talk about the services they provide. When healers serve more lives, more people are able to live in the peace and joy this world has to offer. I'm your host, healer, and spiritual business coach, Alyssa K. Barrios. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to She Who Heals, the spiritual business podcast for healers. Today, I have one of my greatest friends who I actually met through the healing industry. Please welcome Miss Thalia. Thalia is a shamanic Reiki practitioner, and she is incredible at what she does. So I'm so excited to have her talk about Reiki in her own words, because every time she speaks on Reiki and her services, really, I feel like a major activation. And I learned so much about Reiki just from speaking with her. So with that being said, hello, Thalia. How are you?
Hi, Alyssa. I'm well. How are you doing?
I am so good. Thank you for being here today. So what I want to start with is, do you consider yourself a healer?
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I know like some people are just like, oh, don't call me a healer. You're the healer. And like, yeah, you are the healer too. But I'm a healer for sure. Like, it's just, I've gone through too much at this point to not own that title and to not just be proud of it and stand with it and meditate with it and own it. And yeah, I'm a healer. I'm definitely a healer.
What does being a healer mean to you?
To me, it means getting to a point where you are able to first heal yourself and light the torch for yourself. And then people attract that torch. And then you're able to help them see their capacity to light the torch within them for them to do it for themselves.
That was beautiful.
Thank you.
This is why I was like, oh, activations galore whenever I'm talking with you. Like, yes. When did you realize you were a healer?
I probably I probably had like an idea in high school, but it didn't really hit me. I think I had clues throughout my life, but I think it really hit me when I was about like 24. So I'm 29 now. But yeah, I've been on this path of helping others kind of guide their way to themselves and in the world, and for a very, very long time. And I didn't start making it a profession until last year, but I've always been doing it for people. And so I never heard the term healer before, but I definitely knew I had gifts, and I definitely knew that there was something about me that people were really either drawn to or really, really repelled by because of the level of either consciousness that they hold or the level of shadow work that they haven't done. I have been very repulsed by others. Now that doesn't really happen. It's just, if there's a repulsion, it's not an outward aggression. It's just like, oh, I'm just going to stay away. But that doesn't really happen anymore to the level that it used to.
I can resonate so deeply with that. I do feel that the more we're healing ourselves, we're still faced with the human experience of it being challenging, right? Like the human experience is far from easy, and which is why it's a pretty short-lived experience because of how much we go through in the journey of it. And when I hear you sharing that working with others and just living in that human experience can not be so challenging anymore, how have you really worked on making the experience as a healer, but also as a human being, coincide with the way you manage the hard times and the really challenging times when it comes to working and even interacting with others?
On one hand, with interacting with others, I have really learned, but worked really hard. I consciously and intentionally made myself not made myself, but allowed myself to um, own my own energy, and not, because I'm an empath as well, and not take on other people's, by setting those strong boundaries and by knowing my limits and knowing when I'm uncomfortable and knowing how to distance myself if need be and not feel ashamed or bad for it, or weak for it. So with interacting with others is going so much better. And if someone frustrates me or angers me, I get to decide, because I'm in the driver's seat, not my trauma is in the driver's seat. I get to decide how I want to respond from there, if I want to respond at all, or take my time to choose my words in a way that is clear that my boundaries were crossed, but is not so forceful that it's fighting fire with fire and insulting the other person. It's just making it clear that my boundaries were crossed and I didn't like it. And when it's a positive experience, it's just allowing myself to enjoy that and not worry or anticipate anything. And I'm still struggling. I think it's harder in romantic relationships to do that. But again, that's just a human experience. And as far as the other part of your question with applying what I'm teaching and configuring that to my life, shamans have to calibrate to being human, because we hold such a strong vibration and such an open vibration. The human experience, especially for sensitive people who have gifts, is not easy, because we literally don't understand why people choose to live and act from a place of fear. And so that hurts us immensely, because we get affected, because we're always trying to act from a place of love and understanding and compassion. And it hurts on a deep level that we get into situations where that's not always reflected back to us. And then we have to say, I'm not above being on earth. I'm not above being in this flesh and bone body. I have to deal with things the same way everyone else has to deal with things. It's just, I can probably bounce back quicker, but I also allow myself time to sit in my grief or my pain or my shadow, just to really process why I was triggered and to process where my mind goes when I get triggered.
Thinking of the process that I do for myself when I'm feeling really triggered, and what really sparked my interest as you were sharing about the shamanic journey of trying to understand the different ways of human living, such as many humans, yes, living in their fear, or not fully being able to feel someone living in a state of compassion or in a state of full love, right? Because as a Shamanic Reiki practitioner and just as a healer, that's our natural state of living, which can be hurtful when we don't feel it reciprocated.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, like, what does the process look like for you when you are feeling triggered or you're feeling really hurt from someone who is moving from a place of fear? Like,
Right.
How do you process? Do you work with the healer yourself? And if you do, I'm sure you're also doing the work on your own too, right? Because just because we work as healers doesn't mean that we can only do our work with our healer. The healer is there to teach us and hold us accountable. However, how do you process those triggers?
Right. I first have to acknowledge that I'm triggered. I first have to acknowledge, like, oh, something's coming up for me that I may have either dealt with in the past or dealt with in my childhood that's being reflected back to me. I'm triggered. I allow if I cry, I cry. If I get upset, I get upset. If I have to talk on the phone with my mom until I feel calm again, then I do. Like I'm regular. Like I allow myself to just feel what I'm going to feel. But then I also, I make sure I communicate with the other person or the other people. I make sure I'm very clear in my communication and with my confusion or fears or triggers, and just so that they're aware of how something is affecting me. If it's a more intimate relationship, sometimes you can't always do that because it's really like shooting into the dark. It doesn't matter. But when it is a more intimate relationship and there's the intention of getting closer with that other person or those other people, then it's like acknowledge that you're triggered, allow what comes up, get to a state where you're at least neutral, and then communicate from there. I wouldn't communicate. I try at least not to communicate from a place of frenzy or a place of like immediate reaction, because again, your immediate reaction may not have anything to do with them. It could be, for sure, because I do CBT as well. So it could be something that reminded you of some place that you were in from childhood or earlier on in your life that is not really about the other person. And at that point, it's the age you were at, the point of that trauma that's in the driver's seat, not you. So you want to make sure that you're in the driver's seat after the trigger dissipates before you communicate. So that's what I try to do.
Oh my goodness. I am like glowing right now. Like my body is fully on chills and activated right now because again, right, you're just a natural activator. And when you mentioned romantic relationships, I literally was just reflecting with my own self and my own trigger that just happened, that is happening in my new relationship, right? And love is truly healing. And that can be a topic that maybe we talk on as well. So this new relationship for sure is bringing up triggers and traumas. And the past me who wasn't in her healing at the time that I was engaging in relationships, intimate partnerships, I would have spoke on them immediately, spoke on it through my emotions, spoke on it through my past trauma, right? And come from a place of putting my trigger and my experience on the responsibility of someone else who is not responsible for that experience, wasn't responsible for that trigger. And now in this relationship I'm in now, and I'm gone through my healing, I realize I am triggered, but I'm processing it first. And I'm going to decide when to bring up the conversation, when to discuss the boundaries, when I'm confident in that conversation starter. When I'm like, okay, Alyssa, I'm confident within myself now. So now it's time to bring it up. Doesn't mean the conversation is going to be comfortable. It's probably going to be very uncomfortable. I've literally had conversations that I'm like, okay, I'm confident now. And then I get into the moment of like, hey, let's have a conversation on this. And then literally it takes me like 5 minutes to say anything afterwards because I'm like shaking because it's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I resonate so deeply with like you saying showing up when you're feeling like full and complete within yourself. So we're not pulling all of that responsibility of our pain and past onto someone else. And right. And like it reminds me of manifestation too, or like wanting something that you desire. We can't bring our past experience into that present manifestation or that present desire because then it's just going to put that responsibility on that present moment. And it's going to be a cycle of, do you even want this? Do you really want this? Because right now it's feeling more resisting than it is feeling desiring and desired. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. It's beautifully said. Like I'm in a situation too in this relationship where, you know, I had to articulate I had a fear come up and I brought him into that fear instead of bringing the fear to him. And I had to stop myself and I had to tell him, like, listen, like, this is my trauma that's speaking right now. It has nothing to do with you. And I also don't in the future want to come from a place of fear and trauma and bring that to you in a way where it's like, where I'm expecting you to fill in a gap that ultimately I have to fill. And he was so receptive to that. And I still feel triggered by the relationship for different reasons, but it didn't happen until recently that I started feeling triggered. But he's receptive, and I think he's receptive because I've been open and honest. And he is someone who is in integrity, and he's someone who tries to take care of everyone who's around him. And I feel like because he has so much going on that I don't want to be a burden to him, because I feel like in the past I've been made to feel like I was a burden. So that's my fear, is that I'm burdensome to him. And my response, what I told him, what I came to him with was like, I'm going to pull away. I'm going to take a step back from us. I'm going to like do something else. And he was just like, well, we need to talk about this. You know, we need to like, hold on, let's talk about this in person and let's communicate. because it's clear that he doesn't want that to be my reaction from my place of fear, because fear wants separation. Love wants oneness. It's not always easy to remember that when you get scared, when you get triggered, when you're having human moments, because we all have pasts that we're trying to heal from, and we all fall into this fear trap, and no one is above it. Some people think that they can just transcend it. And it's like, you can get to a point of a state of being where you're more conscious and you can go outside of it and see it for what it is and be objective. But at some point, because spirit works the way it works, it's going to come for you because it's trying to teach you something.
I love what you just said right now about spirit is going to come for you because it's trying to teach you something, right? Because literally, I just told a best friend, maybe I shouldn't be in a new relationship. I have a new podcast out. I just hired a social media marketer manager. My business is thriving. My clients are succeeding so much, which means I'm succeeding with them. It's just not time. And she literally reminded me, you're going to face this healing love journey no matter what. You can try to avoid it now, but it's going to find you. When it's going to find you. There's no avoiding the journey of healing. And I love so much about spirit finding you and having you go through your lessons. So what's your experience working with a healer?
It's been interesting. Like the latest one I had was a psychotherapist, but she was also like spiritual, and it was easy to connect with her. I was going through a breakup at the time and was trying to navigate that. And I don't remember like full details, but I do remember I think when you're a healer and you're speaking to another healer, there's a language, right? There's a language that is understood, whereas someone who isn't a healer coming to a healer or a practitioner, maybe it's harder to articulate. But because I was able to articulate exactly what it was easy for her to tell me what I ultimately had to hear, and that, there's nothing wrong with me, and I am a shaman, and it's hard for me to calibrate to the human experience and to screen relationships and people before getting more involved, because I place my idea of romance and my idea of what true love is onto like any potential person I meet, when that's just not realistic. And it's just, my heart just has so much to give and so much to offer that I'm hopeful. And I try not to let my past and my past hurt get in the way of potential present relationships. So to me, anyone I meet could be the one. Anyone has the potential to sweep me off my feet. I don't want to come into a situation thinking, oh, this is another a-hole who's going to hurt me. So, but that has its downfalls too, because if it doesn't work out, then I take it really hard. So she basically told me that like, it's just, I need to go slower. And so that's what I've been learning, is to just, cause it's mostly with me, love and romance that is like, that trips me up. But because men in our world have been programmed with so much unrealistic expectations that have been placed on them, and so much fear and so much aggression, as the divine feminine, being faced with that is just brutal. And especially when I feel like I have so much love to give. And so I just have to slow down and really get to know someone before I can allow myself to fall. And that's my lesson. That's been my lesson forever.
I love and respect so much that we are in this conversation of relationships. Can I just say, like, I love and honor you so much for being so vulnerable in this conversation, because I truly have never seen healers speaking so openly about what they go through, what they're experiencing, and how imperfect we truly are, because it's a level of compassion we're learning to give ourselves consistently, because then we're able to radiate that level of compassion into the universe, right? Like, it's an energetic awakening with the masculine energy right now. Like, it is really they're going to, I feel like the masculine, whether you're male or female, like whatever you identify as is your own personal decision, 100%. But even like the masculine within myself has been so harmed and is going through like deep healing. And the feminine has to heal because the masculine is healing, right? Like my feminine wants the masculine to be healed and to be the strong leader who's empowering and keeping my feminine safe. But I'm also like, well, the masculine myself has to heal in order for my feminine to feel safe. And I feel
Yeah.
like that's a collective, like you already mentioned, like that's a collective experience I think we're all really going through. And I think 2020 was about like getting everyone to focus inward. And now 2021 is like, okay, feminine, do your healing and relax on that masculine. Like freaking let them relax. Like let them heal themselves without putting so much expectation and pressure on them. Because if I'm putting pressure on my masculine to heal, my feminine is going to be putting expectation and nothing comes. I feel like nothing truly grows from expectation. It's this level of if you want something to change or transform, you have to do it within yourself so you can radiate that transformation outward.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So it's like when I think of healing the masculine, and I've even like feeling this in my new relationship, I'm like, what am I feeling within myself and radiating outward? Right. Like instead of making it a responsibility of this person, what am I doing within myself? So the conversations can be so challenging. Like, can I just like go run and hide for a little bit and then like I'll talk to you later? Like maybe
Right.
like in the next week or two, three, four, maybe I'll just never talk to you again because it's so uncomfortable and healing. But like there's no avoiding. There's really no avoiding when the lesson is being put in front of you. And I'm so grateful that you have your healer to help you throughout your journey of like reminding you that greatness and true love does take time. And it does take a level of what is time. Like if this person is your soul mate and this person is for you and you are going to have the rest of your human experience to be with them, why push and rush that journey instead
Right.
of allow it to blossom and receive the magic that comes from that journey of like the time in between, right? Like I think back to when I was missing this my new partner that I'm with, and instead of being able to say, "Hey, I miss you" on days I don't talk to you, I was boiling up inside, and I was like, "Why aren't we talking every day? Why is it not happening quicker?" You know? And then I started like getting
Girl,
fueled.
I have things to tell you. Like I'm the same. Yeah.
Literally. And I was like, Alyssa, just like we were talking about, I'm not going to respond or communicate based on my emotion and my trigger. So let me deal with my ish by myself, or maybe with some of my friends. Well, not some of my friends, but friends I respect, like friends that I really, really value and honor, right? Because when we give our sacred experiences outward to too many people, we bring in energy that can actually just continue to destruct that sacred, right?
Right.
So like you, like we have our hour, 2 hour conversations of our updates. But the whole point of this is I had to take 2 or 3 days processing this frustration I was having towards this person not talking to me every single day. And I realized, oh, I just miss him. Instead of being able to say, oh, I miss him. My traumas, my past, my ickiness was getting in the way of that simplistic form of love I was having, which is, oh, I miss him. When I felt safe and comfortable, I was like, oh, I'm confident now. All of that frustration and anger and pain was me just trying to figure out that I missed him. And it's okay to miss someone. It's okay to let someone into my heart. It's okay to care about someone's presence so much that when they're not there, you want them to be there. And
Yeah.
I had to heal that within myself of being in love again because I had been really hurt in my past life, right? And so telling this person I miss him, now we talk every day. And it's like, and I'm just going to own it. Like, yeah, we do talk every day and he's a part of my life so much more. And it was just that level that had to happen.
That's incredibly sweet and incredibly human and incredibly feminine. And it's valid to get boiled up because maybe, I don't know, for at least for me in my past, if I showed an ounce of emotion towards a guy, they shut down and run away. So I just always, especially with this guy, I've been open with him, but I try not to be so open that it's like every single emotion he has to know about. That's just not appropriate. But I really feel you when you're saying like, it's just a simple, I miss you. And hopefully the other person is receptive, and that's the trauma, is because not everyone has been probably for you. Not everyone has held space for you in the way that you wish they could have. And that's scary to feel like you're in love again and to put yourself on the line and put yourself out there again, just to potentially be let down again. It's not fun. It's not easy. And then that doesn't work until you have to wait until God sends you the next person, and you don't even know where that's going to go. So it's frustrating. It's annoying. It's just like, but I think as long as we learn the lesson in love, and we keep opening our hearts, and we keep being courageous and daring to be fearless with our emotion to the amount that we feel it. That's what God wants for us. That's what Spirit wants for us. Is God can work with a broken heart. God can work with the heart that's afraid. God can work with the heart that's in love. He cannot work with the heart that is prideful. No. So to surrender to your pride, and to surrender and just give, and just not expecting anything, just give because it feels good. Give because that's what your heart wants to do anyway, and not putting blockages up. I think that's all that matters. And if you're doing that, and if you're realizing that, Alyssa, and you're like, I'm just going to say what it is in simple terms, I miss you, then that could be so healing, and that could alchemize so much pain and so much grief that you've been through in the past. And I truly believe that like every time we're choosing love in our journey, we alchemize our past, and we alchemize stagnant energy that is stored in our bodies to release and to transmute into light and love, because that's what we really all are. We're all light and love. And this planet is dense, and this planet is beautiful, but it's dense, and it's not the kingdom of heaven. So we're all just trying to find little bits of heaven in our experience. And that's a journey.
Wow. Like there is very dark energy out here that is filled with pain and filled with not choosing God. Stepping into those who are choosing God and are choosing love and are choosing light. Like I literally had to study love because of the pain that I had gone through in my past. Like I finally was like, I am not feeling love. I thought I was feeling love. I thought I had love, and it completely scattered and was disgusting. So obviously I have some homework to do. What really is love? Because I didn't see it. I didn't know what it was. I thought destruction. I thought abuse. I thought just not caring about yourself and being destructive to others was love and tolerance. And I finally had to realize, no, love shouldn't be painful, right? So I, of course, was guided through a healer who sent me to read All About Love by Bell Hooks. Literally, that book is so deeply healing. I'm like reading it again. Like I literally had to study love to understand it because of the love I was taught in my childhood, the love my parents taught, the love friends didn't know how to live in love. Like I didn't even know how to love my friends at certain times in my life, So it's like this traumatic patterning of what love is had to be broken within myself, because I was like, this patterning needs to end because it's not true. It's not truthful. It's painful. Like there's some work that needs to be done. And I started going deeper into my Bible, and I was like, okay, if God loves me so much, what's God trying to tell me? And then I started learning about, to be human, to be man, to be woman, there are certain ways of living, right? There is certain ways of, by reading the Proverbs, and I know, Thalia, you read Proverbs, you read the Bible, and I love that so much about us because you do have such a strong present moment with your relationship with God and the sacred text. And I love if you like to talk about that journey, and especially when it comes to love and relationships for you. But I mean, for me, I had to study it, and I'm still studying it, right? Like I'm still studying it. And I also just want to share too, like, if I want this person to be my person, I'm going to decide that. And like, it's been working so far, like I think on like the second date I was with this person, I was like, oh, this is my person. Like he's gonna be my person. And it's been working. Right. And my trauma in me I'm telling you guys a lot of secrets right now on how to manifest love, but my trauma could have said, I'm not good enough. or spoken bad about him instead of being compassionate, right? Like so many times in my past, and if any past partners are here listening, sorry if I wasn't compassionate, because true, if I'm critical of myself, I'm going to be critical on those around. So with studying love, being in the sacred text, trying to connect with God, I'm able to truly decide this is going to be my person. And this person is going to fall madly in love with me because I'm madly in love with myself. And this person is going to be madly in love with me because how could you not be?
Nice.
And it's working. It's working.
Good. Awesome.
But how have you been studying love and like deciding? Because I'm sure you can resonate a lot with like, and what is healing love?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. A lot of what love is comes from my Bible. A lot of a soulmate or twin flame, whatever you want to call it, that I had actually went to elementary school with. We reconnected after 15 years, and he taught me so much about love. His spirit taught me about love. What we went through taught me about love. God in that relationship taught me about love. And it is, and I've studied love after a huge breakup I had when I was 21. I was in such a dark place and I was sick of it. So I started going on Your Tango and going on Oprah's website and watching videos on YouTube just about relationships and love and what it is, what it's not, what is abuse, what are narcissists, what are dangerous men to look out for. I read a book called How to Spot a Dangerous Man Before You Get Involved. I think that's what it's called. I had therapists, and I was really trying to dissect where I stood with men, because there was a long period of my life where I didn't like men. I just didn't like them. Not like in a physical way. I just didn't like, I felt like I hated men because I had been so hurt and so abused. I had to come out of that. And it was still a very, very, very long journey before they started treating me with the respect that I knew I deserved and treating me with the love that I knew I deserved. It took a very long time. It took a very, very long time. It's still not exactly there yet. I think the divine masculine polarity is still trying to find its footing with me as I try to find my footing with myself and with God. And gosh, I'm losing my track. What was the original question? I'm sorry.
Love, healing. How do you study it?
Yeah. So the best way to study is to just be open to experience, because you can read about it, you can pray about it, you can sing about it, you can write about it. But the only way that you're really going to experience it and learn from it is if you put yourself out there in the line of fire. Be open, be discerning, obviously, and be as discerning as you can be without it spilling into fear, and be loving and just see what happens and see what you do learn and see what works for you and what doesn't work. That's the really only way you're going to learn. Because if you're expecting to love to just call you on the phone and knock on your door while you're not really putting in work on yourself or putting yourself out there, I'm sorry, but it's not going to happen. It's, that's the movies. That's not real life. Love is action. So you have to take action for love.
And love is in every relationship that we have. Like love is in the way we love our parents. Love is in the way we love our siblings. Love is in the relationships of our friendships. Love is in the relationships with our healers, with our coaches, right? Like there's so many times where I was so critical on certain coaches I had, and I had to finally face how critical am I with my own self? And how critical have I been towards my friends, towards my parents, right? And so there's this level of like, how am I going to respond to this person in front of me based on how do I even respond to myself? Because for so long, I think we can expect people to love us on a way that's comfortable and a way that's healing and safe. However, if we're not able to do the loving within ourselves, how are we expecting it from anyone else, right? And then there's that word of expectation again, because there is no expectation in this journey. That's only resistance, right? There's all like, again, it's so crazy how aligned it truly is to what is happening without based on what is happening within. And I just completely honor your vulnerability and everything that you're sharing right now, because talking about all that we've experienced from love and how it has actually made us really resistance towards others and really in energies that are angry and frustrating, like that is not something that I think we really talk about often. And if we don't talk about it, we know this too from our Bible, the enemy loves when we're in isolation, especially with those types of energies. So the fact that we're able to bring to light those energies that are not filled with love and light and instead filled with pain and darkness, then we're able to free ourselves from that. So we can continue to experience the journey of love and the journey of light. And it's so healing. It's so, so healing, which will then be healing for all of those around you.
So healing.
Before we go into, because I'm like, wow, we're just like talking so much on love right now, but I'd like to also talk about your healing services and what it is like to be a healer. But before we go into that, I've been dabbling with this question when it comes to interviewing my guests, and Spirit's like, keep asking this question, even if it's uncomfortable. And I don't know why it's uncomfortable. I think it's just because I don't know. It's something we don't really talk about. But where are you? What is your ancestral lineage? Where are your parents from? Where are your grandparents from? Who would you say are your ancestors?
So my family is Haitian and Greek. On both my parents' side. My grandmother's lineage is Haitian and Greek. My grandfather's is just Haitian. My grandmother's lineage that is Haitian is Taino Indian. So that's native Haiti. That's native Hispaniola. And the other half is Greek. So that's my mom's side. My father's side is just pure Haitian and also most likely Taino Indian. And that's, again, native from Haiti, native Hispaniola. And we've actually had healers in the family from a while back, and which I feel so connected to. And I feel so grateful to be from such a rich island and such a rich historical place in the world, because Haiti has so much culture when it comes to being tapped into the divine and tapped into even the darkness and tapped into not the occult, but just a realm that is just very potent, and it's light and it's also dark. And I have so much of that within me that it's been apparent. So, I love being connected to that history, especially with being Greek. They're the ancients. And I think Haiti and Greece are it seems like they're such contrasting places, only because Greece is talked about more in school and in ancient Greek, and there are more movies made about that specific place. But actually, like, if you look at, just as healers, as oracles and as folklore, it's very similar. So I think it's funny that I landed on two really old civilizations in my human experience. I have two very old civilizations running through my veins. And it's just so cool. And my name is Greek as well. So I just think it's so cool.
To the viewers listening, if you could see Thalia right now talking about her lineage, it is the most beautiful thing to witness. Like, you are glowing, your smile is radiating, and I can just feel your ancestors within you right now, like so prideful and so grateful for where you've come from and where your family's come from. Like, I just wanted to share that because it is just glowing right now, and I feel so lucky to be a witness of this conversation right now. So thank you, Spirit, for getting me to get uncomfortable asking a question that is obviously beautiful.
It is a beautiful question. I love that question.
Thank you. Then what made you decide to become a full-time healer and open up your own healer's business?
What happened? Like, it was just like, what even happened? Because I chose to break away from the entertainment industry and focus on my spiritual life, because I was always spiritual, but I just wanted to just focus on it full time. And then that was my own journey. And then when I decided that man, like I've been helping people for a long time and people are always coming up to me and I end up having like 2-hour conversations with them at the bar or at the club or like on the street. And I'm just like, I just start getting paid for this because it's really helping. And so it's probably took about 3 years for everything to get on its feet and get running. And then I found cognitive behavioral therapy, which when I looked into it, I was just like, oh, that's something I kind of do naturally. Let me study it. And I took online classes and got certified. And the word shaman just kept popping out to me throughout my journey. Even from high school, someone would call me a shaman. Like this girl, Ashley, she'd be like, oh, you're my shaman. You're my shaman. And because she was always coming to me for like advice and like help. And it was always like, I guess, really resonating with her, which was interesting because she was someone who was like really punk rock and like, like definitely not all lovey-dovey and whatever. So the fact that we were able to connect and I was able to help her, I think she really appreciated that. So it just always followed me. And then I started paying attention to that word more and looking into it, looking up different schools and different coaches. And I found the best one and I found the best master to make me a master. And it happened. And it was just when I was in the class or the whatever you want to call it, it just felt like I had always been using these tools and using my hands in these ways. And it just felt like, oh, I've always known how to do this. Now I'm just remembering how to do it. And it just came so natural. I was like, oh, this is what I'm going to do. Like, this is actually what I'm supposed to be doing. Yeah. And with clients, it's just so, I surprise myself sometimes because it's really not coming from me. It's coming from spirit when I'm channeling and like when I'm connecting with someone's higher self and I'm connecting with them and their story and their truth and their journey. What comes out of my mouth isn't really coming from me. It can't come from me. It's just how in the world would that come from me? I don't know them. I didn't go to Harvard and study psychology. You know what I mean? Like, how could it come from me? It's coming from spirit. It's coming from God. It's coming from their higher self. It's coming from my higher self. Knowing that I had always been very open and then having the training just made the perfect situation. So that's how it happened.
Amazing. I love that, how you just finished that, being open and also learning and asking for help and knowing that there's things to be learning, right? Like the fact that you followed that word shamanism and you ended up finding the best teacher to help you navigate through being a shamanic Reiki practitioner. So can you share with us what that means? What is a shamanic Reiki practitioner? I know you mentioned CBT, cognitive behavior therapy. So can you share more about what your healing modalities are?
Sure. So Shamanic Reiki is basically, I want to just say it simply because I've been talking a lot, is basically the shaman is working on behalf of spirit and another individual to bring down cosmic consciousness to the individual based on their higher selves and based on their path to help them navigate their healing, what they need for their healing structure, because everyone's healing structure is different. Everyone's healing trajectory is different. So I'm really just getting a stream of downloads of cosmic consciousness that is applicable for that person and is meant for that person, and applying it in such a way, and it not applying, but applying it, yes, because of the Reiki, but translating what I'm receiving in such a way and using specific words for that specific person in such a way where they can receive it, where it makes sense for them and where they can apply it for themselves. And that's what shamans do. We tap into the spirit world, the pregnant unknown, the pregnant void, and we just bring down that information for someone else so that they can feel the presence of the divine and take it from there, pretty much in a nutshell. And the cognitive behavioral therapy is kind of like, I use it as like a framework, a frame for all the spiritual work that we do. So that's basically going through how someone responds to a trigger, what their cognitive process is, and where their beliefs lie, where their thoughts go, where their emotions go, what behaviors they take on as a result, and finding a balancing point between considering a different perspective on how they could react to a trigger, how they could think about a trigger, how they could respond to a trigger, so that we have, okay, where your mind is going is valid. Sure. But how about we offer a new perspective that is balanced with that? And if you held this perspective, how do you think you would feel if you could also adopt this perspective? Wouldn't you feel lighter? Wouldn't you feel more calm or less anxious, etc.? So once we do that, then that sets up the next portion of the session, which is the shamanic Reiki.
I feel like you just answered my question, like from spirit to spirit, because I was thinking, oh, why is it so important to work with a healer? And I was going to ask you that, but then you literally mentioned the word perspective, and it's like healers bring perspective shifts, right? And that's why I think for so long, so many healers work for free at the beginning, or they realize they're a healer because they're in conversations and they're giving perspective. And people are like, oh my goodness, you're changing my world. You're making me feel safe. You're making me feel seen. Now I feel empowered. Now I want to go be myself, right? And it's like that perspective shift that so many healers are able to help us connect to. Also, I want to say, please talk as much as you love, because I'm here for it. Your voice is so healing, so activating. Like, take up the space, babe. You are just incredible. And I love you so much. And I'm so happy you're here right now.
You're so good at this. I'm dying. I'm just like, we need to get her like a YouTube channel. You have a YouTube channel. We need to get her like 1 million views, like right now, like today.
1 million views? It's already there. It's already happening. So what's been your experience as a healer? Also, thank you. I love you. But what's been your experience as a healer working with others?
Funny that you asked that. And it's funny that you mentioned vulnerability, because I'm about to get real right now. There are times when especially in the beginning, where I was absolutely just excited and so happy and like so into it. And I am now, I still am. But there are definitely days where I'm just like, I have no idea what I'm going to say to this person. I don't know. Like, it's going to be on them to be open enough to, I just have to keep them talking. You know what I mean? I have to keep them talking and keep pressing them to get to the root of their trauma and get to the root of why they're having the experiences that they're having. And I had to do this thing called Socratic questioning, which is from it's part of CBT, where it's basically just road mapping to the point. You know, it's not always sessions can sometimes be a little boring. You know what I mean? Not that the person is boring, but it's kind of like, you see something so clearly, you just want the other person to see it clearly too. And I have those moments. I just let it happen. I just let myself, I don't try to force myself to be like, oh my God, yeah, like another client. You know what I mean? I don't force myself to be like, you know, that much into it if I'm not really feeling it that day. But I don't let the client feel like I'm not feeling it. It's just before the session, I'm just like, all right, I'm not really feeling it, but we'll see what happens. And usually what happens is something really great. So, and I always forget that happens, that something really great happens. But I think it's for me to just acknowledge that I am giving a lot of myself for 90 minutes, which is not easy to do with two different frameworks with two different modalities. It's not easy to do. It's not easy to channel for 90 minutes straight. It's not easy to hold space for 90 minutes straight, especially when it's like, you can't talk about your own experience that much. Like, I can bring a perspective from my life to them if it helps. But it's not like this kind of conversation where like, okay, now it's my turn to share. No, it's about them. And it for 90 minutes straight, that's a lot. So sometimes I could feel a little bit of dread, honestly, but then I'm in it. And then I'm reminded that like, this person is coming to me and they're obviously grateful and they're obviously needing something desperately. And who am I to be like, sorry, I don't want to see you right now. Like, no, like, I'm going to show up every time. I always tell my clients that I'm available to them 24/7. They want to call or text me or whatever, even after sessions are done, that I'm available to them. And I want to make that a point to them because I am available to them and so that they know they're not alone. And the bond that I've formed with each of them, they've all made such tremendous progress. And it's only when I see that progress that I can tell them, okay, it's time for you to move on. But, you know, my structure is, We have 5 sessions initially. So you're basically signing up for 5 sessions straight. And then that's $200 per session, depending on where you fall, how much progress you've made from the first session to the last session will determine if we need another cycle or if I refer you to someone else. But there's usually people stay on for like about 2 cycles each. I'm with them until they start to feel like they have results. It's a commitment.
I can fully resonate with the calmness that happens before the sessions of like, am I bored? Am I not excited for the session? But like you mentioned, there's always some deep breakthrough that happens through those sessions right after you're feeling that way. And it's like, oh, I was just being prepared for that breakthrough, because then I get like pumped and I get amped and I'm like, yes, like this is what it's all about. You're just such an incredible healer to be able to open yourself up so much to your clients of like the 24/7 check-ins, like when they need you, they have you. Like I definitely set that boundary, and I'm not called to be that healer who opens herself up so much, but you are called to be that healer. And it seems like it's working so tremendously well for you and your clients. And I love that you're able to acknowledge what you're called to do, what your boundary is as a healer. And I think that's so important for healers to understand that each healer is so different, just like each healing journey for each individual is different. So what you're called as a healer, what your boundaries are, because that's your role for your clients. And that's so important that so many healers are feeling safe to take up space and talk about their services, which is why our healing podcast exists right now, because we're all so different in the best way, because every human is different and every human deserves to have a healer to feel safe with.
Right.
So before we wrap up, and I'm like, I just want to keep you here forever. What vision do you see for healers in the world?
I think there's an integration happening with healers and traditional psychology and traditional medicine and traditional science. It's 2 sides of the same coin. And the more everyone sees that, the better off human beings will be on. I definitely see that integration happening. I definitely see people adopting spirituality more. And I just hope we keep going in that direction. What I don't hope for what to happen, which is already happening, is that it becomes corporate. Is that we try to put spirit into a box and make it corporate and try to train people in a way where they have to, because that's never going to work. That's never going to work. You can't put God in a box. But what you can do is bring God to different industries and let him do what he's going to do. So I think the future of healers is that we dare to take up space in the world and dare to make serious careers that are supporting our living, and not being afraid of money, not being afraid of making money, not being afraid of asking for money for our services, not selling ourselves short in any sense of the word, because it's valid what we're doing. And if you're sharp at what you're doing, then there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to have financial gain. And I think for healers, there needs to be a letting go of shame around financial gain.
The tech got a little weird. Of course it did, as you're speaking so strongly on the future and manifestation of healers. Like, of course, tech was getting a little funky. But were you speaking on financial gain? Like, it's okay for healers to be making money and taking care of themselves?
Yeah.
Fully in agreement with all that you just shared. Last question. Are you ready for it?
Yeah.
What is your future self telling you right now?
Oh, just let it all go. Just let it go. Just whatever it is that I want the direction of my love life to go in with whatever person, or if it's going to be this person, or if it's going to be that person, or with my career, like, am I always going to be able to support myself in this way? And like these thoughts, just let it go. Just whatever, just be cool, whatever.
So cool. You are so cool.
Thank you. Yeah, just to let it all go and to just not stress, because it's worked out in the past. It'll work out again. It'll keep working out. It's just try and relax and just be cool.
So I'm going to put all of your information in the show notes, but is there any other way, or what are you offering right now for the healers who are listening and interested in shamanic Reiki and CBT?
For the healers, I mean, we can always have a conversation if they're interested in learning more, and I'm available, and we can always connect in that way if they just want to bounce off ideas or thoughts and concerns or questions or tips. Like, I'm open to that for sure. I don't train healers, but I can definitely offer something, whatever they need.
You are always offering, always. Just your existence is such an offering to this world. And I thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. This has been so much fun. I want to come on again. I love this.
I love you. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to another episode of She Who Heals, the Spiritual Business Podcast. You guys, the Spiritual Business Program is open and we are closing in a few days. You guys, the Spiritual Business Program is for the healer who is ready to be full-time in their business. They are ready to learn what it is to run a business, all you need to know to run a business and to open the business and begin building the business of your dreams, a business that is going to give you the freedom to live your life, the business that is going to give you the opportunity to be able to know that what you have and what you know is already enough. It is time that you are helping others. It is time that you are making your impact in the way that best is aligned to you so you can be making the money that you deserve, so you can be creating the schedule that works for you, your loved ones, and for those desires on your heart. It is time to travel. It is time to be. It is time to do what feels good for you without having to ask anyone for permission except for yourself. And let's, of course, remember God and Spirit. Apply now. Link is in my bio. Link is in here, the podcast notes. And I love you guys, and I will talk to you all soon. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please leave a review. And please, please, please like and share our podcast. If you like and share, please be sure to tag us. We love to connect with you.